Afternoon, class. We have Dark Phoenix released this weekend, which is going to be the final X-Men film. Yes, I know that New Mutants is still sitting out there in the ether somewhere, but as far as the core X-Men, this is the last 20th Century Fox X-Men film. Not getting a very good reception, to say the least. I don't know if it's the least performing on Rotten Tomatoes, but I know that it's lower than X-Men Origins Wolverine from the last I heard, so that would make me think that it would be the least, but anyway, I reviewed it yesterday, spoiler free. CP has also seen it. We got a chance to kind of talk about it a little bit. We're going to dive into the film, give our spoiler free decisions or thoughts for a little bit, and then dive right into the spoilers and discuss this final 20th Century Fox X-Men film, what we expect from the future, what probably should have been done. I'm sure you guys recognize him. Before we get going, CP, go ahead and introduce yourself to maybe some virgins in here.
Yeah, so perhaps I worked against you there, but I was prepared. While you talked about Rotten Tomatoes, I put up an image. So I just want to make sure that it worked this time. If Cody cut out, please let me know in the chat. But I think I fixed the issue from last night. So I have graphics that can accompany Cody's voice this time. But yeah, it's me. It's me. My name's right here. So fucking go. If you like it, go.
So
where do I sign?
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, so guys, let us know. We did a Chucky stream last night, and we had some kind of a screw up where whenever there was a graphic up, my sound cut out. So we kind of had to let CP take the floor when graphics were present. So if that happens again this stream, or if there's any audio issues or anything, please let us know, because the stream program that we use is known to be a little fickle.
Yeah. So, wait. You know what, Cody? I have the thing up now. Just say a number and have the chat put it up. Just say a number right now.
1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12.
That's a long number for them to put in. So in the chat, if you heard him, just let me know what that number was. He said should be fun.
The password is peaches. Oh man! All right, well, rolling right into it. I guess I'll let you start off first. Like, what is your experience with the Fox X-Men franchise? Maybe if you read comics or if you were a fan of the cartoon, what did you expect walking into this film, and what were your kind of before we get into our spoiler-free thoughts on the film, what did you just want to see out of it?
What I wanted to see out of it was not an ex-women line, that's for certain. X-Men is a weird franchise. It seems like if DC fucks up, the X-Men is usually there to surprise you, and like, because Apocalypse was the same year as Batman v Superman, right?
I think so, yes.
Yeah. So I had no expectations for Apocalypse, and I was like, a little bit better than Batman versus Superman. Granted, it was not the director's cut that everybody'd seen, but yep. All right, so we heard you. Awesome.
I confirmed, or that was an amazing guess.
Yeah. So I've never really put much. I'm not the biggest comic guy, so like stuff like Deadpool like really turns me on, because first of all, it's such a departure. It kind of roasts the genre itself. It has a bit more fun. It's a subversion of sorts. So, the X-Men is like the first real introduction to modern day superhero films with those Bryan Singer movies. Mm-hmm. So, you kind of owe a lot to this franchise. A lot of people say like Blade and shit like that, and I don't know about that, but it seems to always be around, and there are some hits, there are some misses. So I've had that in the back of my head. I knew we weren't getting Logan. That's for certain. Mm-hmm. But I didn't expect much, and I'll say I was disappointed, which really says something.
Yeah, my experience with the X-Men, they've actually for periods of time they've been my favorite like superhero franchise going on, because they kind of started it all to a degree. You know what I mean? You had Blade in there, yes, but most people didn't even know that was a comic book film until years later. But X-Men was kind of the real... X-Men and Spider-Man were the ones that kind of really set it off. And then it was another, decade or so before the MCU got kicking. So, it was... Yeah, so X-Men was kind of there first, and I loved the first two X-Men films. I was really disappointed with X3 when it first came out, but I'll have some thoughts to elaborate on that when I do my ranking. But when the MCU came out, and then when the DC EU started coming out, they kind of became the underdogs out of nowhere. Like suddenly, the MCU and the DCU were the only ones that people really wanted to talk about, and then you would have like X-Men Apocalypse. People like, oh shit, yeah, that's still a thing. So they kind of became the underdogs for a while. But I'll tell you, even with the MCU and the DCEU running, movies like Days of Future Past, movies like Logan, especially, and Deadpool, they were putting out movies that were making like my top 10 comic book films of all time. Like they have some bad ones, but they have some really, really great films in the X-Men franchise. So after Apocalypse, which I didn't hate as much as most people, I still kind of enjoyed it. It definitely was a big step down from Days of Future Past. It was definitely Bryan Singer's least successful effort in the X-Men universe. Yeah. But I was okay with most of it, and I was okay with where they left off to kind of go from there with the new, younger cast and everything like that. What's going on, Durbin? We got reports that they were going to be reattempting the Dark Phoenix storyline with this new cast. And just on paper, I was going, cool, because they really screwed the pooch with Last Stand. People loved that comic book storyline. I thought Sophie Turner was great in Apocalypse. So I was like, all right, cool, we can do this. And then they said, well, Simon Kinberg, the guy that's wrote at least most, if not all, of these X-Men films was written by Simon Kinberg. I could be wrong about that, but he's at least had his hand in the writing, and he's been the longtime producer of it. So he's like the X-Men guy, was going to be taking over the director's chair for his first movie. And I went, oh. Might want to pick a smaller target, but anyway, we had that. He was the one that really wanted to do the storyline justice. He was the one that was really hammering home that they got to fix Dark Phoenix. And everything seemed to be fine up until right about the time the movie was supposed to be released, and then it got delayed. And then there started being reports of all these reshoots and issues. Right around this time, Disney was acquiring Fox, so everybody was like, well, what the hell? It's not going to go anywhere anyway. It's like a show it's going to be canceled. So everybody's really started to lose interest quick. And then the movie came out, and it was just obliterated by critics like almost immediately. I think it debuted at like a 17% or something.
Hold on. You can talk while I do this now, so go ahead. Talk
cool.
While I have visual aids, go ahead.
You can still hear my voice. All right, so we have, so it gets obliterated by critics. You have people calling it the worst X-Men film that's ever been released, which is a shocking statement with movies like X-Men Origins Wolverine. And for a lot of people, X-Men The Last Stand is actually really, really bad.
Are you looking at the screen? Because you literally are chiming it off like it's in order.
Oh, no, I'm not. I can't look at it, probably.
Dark Phoenix is 22% on Rotten Tomatoes. X-Men Wolverine is 37. Last Stand is 57. In that order.
Which is insane. Like I could see that kind of with The Last Stand, but X-Men Origins is just terrible. I cannot see that movie getting... If it was debuted today, it would be like Hellboy numbers. So that's pretty crazy to me. So the movie gets that kind of reception, and I really had my expectations waning ever since I really heard that the movie was going through all these problems. It was in my top 10 most anticipated for the year. It wouldn't be if I did a list last week. And really, I walked into it and I said, okay, I'm not expecting this to be very good, but I'm also expecting it not to be as bad as everybody's saying. And to me, the movie is what I'll call just flatlined. Like the whole movie, I walk in, my emotions never really raised or waned. There's not anything in the movie that, except for a couple of moments, like a couple of lines that stand out, like the one you already referenced that is a little cringe. There's nothing in the movie. Yeah, there's nothing in the movie that's like, oh my god, that is a train wreck. But there's nothing in the movie that's like, wow, that's really cool. Everything's just kind of like average across the board, all the way through.
You said train wreck. Third act.
So we got the whole time. I'm just kind of like, okay, yeah, all right, yeah, and just my emotions never raised from that, and that's. Sometimes that's worse than a bad movie. Yeah. Like, at least a bad movie, you have those lower spectrums where you're like, dude, that one scene was horrible. Like, you have things that you can really emote about. This movie, the whole time I'm talking about it, I'm like, the acting's okay. Like, Sophie Turner was great. I will say she was really good. But everything beyond that, even McAvoy and I'm blanking on his name
now.
Fassbender, yeah. McAvoy and Fassbender, who are usually the standouts no matter how good the movie is. You listen or you watch them in the movie, and you're kind of like, okay. Even they kind of feel like they're over it. I've never been a fan of Jennifer Lawrence's Mystique, but we'll get into some spoilers with her character. Even the new cast, it feels like everybody but Jean Grey kind of gets pushed to the background. Even Scott Summers, yet again, like, okay, well, whatever, just stand back there. We got a tough line for you in the third act. The villains, that's probably not a spoiler, but the Cate Blanchett and Friends characters, probably one of the most useless villain characters that I've seen in a comic book movie in years, because you could literally take them out of the movie. The movie's exactly the same. And it's stuff like that, and then you start getting deeper into it, which is the stuff that might start to annoy people. We'll get into that, but like continuity errors, logic errors. When you're not enjoying yourself, those things stand out much more. If it's a great movie, you can forgive certain things, but it just across.
You're talking me into a lower score. The more you're talking, I'm like, yeah, you know what? Yeah.
So yeah, it's just a movie where I'm like, okay, it's an okay X-Men film. It's not the worst by any means. It's far from the best. It's not of the quality we expect from not even just this franchise, but comic book movies in general anymore. And for a last movie to cap all this off, I kind of wish it didn't exist, and I kind of wish Logan was the closing chapter, because what a hell of a note to end on.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, so I was just kind of like, that's like if I could do a face review, if I didn't speak it, like that would be a review.
Papa Dukes is in the chat. He said might see it in your Blu-ray, son.
Oh yeah, he's gonna borrow my movies. My dad's a hey, you bought that new movie? Let me borrow it kind of person. So yeah, he gets to save money because I'm a whore.
Sure.
So yes, yeah, that's pretty much my spoiler-free thoughts on the film. So this is obviously, if you clicked on this video, hopefully you were warned anyway by the title, but we're going to start getting into spoilers now. So if you want to stay spoiler-free, there's not really anything in this movie that's a huge shock that's going to like ruin the experience for you. So I'm just putting it out there because I actually had somebody. I talked about Mystique, and I actually gave a spoiler warning in my spoiler-free review that I was about to say something that might be considered it, even though they led the marketing with it. And I still had a comment going, "What the fuck, bro? You spoiled it." And I'm like, did you not hear the words preceding what I said, saying, if you don't want to know anything, click off now?
Yeah, but if the X-Men franchise had a Harrison Ford, you knew who it was.
Yeah.
Somebody was very vocal about how much they didn't want to be around anymore.
Yeah. So diving into spoilers, I guess we'll just kind of go through the acts of the film. So the film starts, and we're in a state where the X-Men is in a different reception with the world than they've ever been in any of these movies ever, where Professor X basically has a direct line to the president. They're kind of like the Avengers in a way, where some shit's going down, they call Professor X, he sends the X-Men. And right away I'm going, wow, I know this is a different timeline, but the whole point of X-Men is that they're kind of in hiding. The whole point of this school is that they're kind of in hiding. Now that they're like public figures and all this stuff, like they go to this little space mission because there's this space shuttle spinning.
Also, it's 1992 because movie.
Oh, God, yeah. We'll get into the timeline thing. Yeah, that's the other thing. 1992, and I'm going, another 10-year jump. They look like 6 months older, but cool. So, yeah, they take the X-Jet into space, and between Nightcrawler and Quicksilver, they quickly save all of the crew. Jean Grey gets sent to the space shuttle to kind of hold it together for the last few minutes so they can finish getting everybody. And Nightcrawler can't get to her fast enough because movie. Motherfucker teleports. He can literally look miles away. As long as he can see where he's going, he can teleport in an instant and teleport back. But no, Jean, you're just out of reach. So she gets hit with this cosmic force. She goes into like sleepy time, and they go back down. They pose for pictures. She seems like she's okay. Everything's cool. And right away, the whole thing with the Nightcrawler thing, I'm going, okay, that's kind of bullshit, but okay, whatever. We can move on with that. She has the Phoenix powers now. Oh wait, didn't she have the Phoenix powers at the end of Apocalypse? Because
Brilliant point.
Yeah, I mean they didn't come out and say it, but like Apocalypse was wrecking shit. She finally realized her inner power. She jumps out. She starts screaming. There's this flash of energy behind her that makes a phoenix. And she starts wrecking shit in the level of Apocalypse in the third act of that film. So when you watch it, you're like, oh, okay, she just unleashed the Phoenix powers inside of herself, and the next movie will be her dealing with what she's just unleashed. But no, she has to have space colors. So so they're back. They're posing for pictures. The president thanks them. The news thanks them. And now you have this turmoil where Mystique is the leader of the X-Men now, apparently, which, again, I'll get into Mystique. She's at odds with Charles because Charles is trying to save face for the public. He's trying to be, he's trying to be the government's bitch, basically.
He likes taking credit, too, yeah.
Yeah, and he gets to go to the awards, and as long as everybody thinks the X-Men is there to help, then they will leave mutants alone. That's his mentality. Her mentality is you're bending over for these people. As soon as something happens, they're going to turn on us again, and you almost got Jean killed because you wanted to get every person and not everybody but one. Mm-hmm. So you kind of see a little bit of both sides, but the problem I have with it, and I'm curious on your thoughts, is that in order for that to work, they have to completely, 100% reverse who Charles Xavier has been in every single one of these films. Like, he's literally been the opposite of that in everything. Safety of mutants, the secretive of this school, the protection of my kids comes first, no matter what. And he's kind of an arrogant dick in this movie, all the way up until, like, the third act.
That's where some of this Monday morning quarterbacking could have played in. Listen, you want to fast forward 10 years? Give us a quick little show of descent. Like, you could do it before the title screen even. Just a slow descent into Charles's, ego trip. Like, again, if it was just like a quick 20-second thing, at least you've set it up. Like, it's like you said, the entire franchise up until now has been Xavier protecting the X-Men, and now he's all about the show of it, and
yeah,
a lot of shoehorning, a lot of contrivance, but that was far from my like close to my top of the things that bothered me. But
yeah, this is just kind of setting the stage for the film, where I was just like, well, what is going on here? That's not Charles. That's not the character at all. That's a really weird place to go. And then we get the line that everybody is falling in love with, where apparently Mystique feels slighted, and she basically walks out of the room, and the clip's online too, so they actually felt that it was such a cool scene, they actually put it online before the movie was released, where she goes, it's funny, the women are always saving the men around here, maybe you should change the name to X-Women, and then she stomps off, and he kind of has this look, and it's one of those things where they threw it in, I think, because they got so much shit in Apocalypse for that poster where Apocalypse was holding her up by her neck, and everybody's like, oh, it's the strong man putting down the strong, or the weak woman. There was all this controversy.
Except she fucked shit up at the end. What?
Yeah, exactly. It was a stupid controversy, but it felt like it was inserted in there as a response to that. Like, when I heard it, I was going, wow. And even within the context of the film, the line doesn't make any sense, because Nightcrawler was the one doing all the shit in the scene, so it wasn't like Jean Grey had to go over there and save his ass or anything like that. So it was just a weird moment. And it wasn't like I'm not the type to get tipped off or anything by something that seems social or SJW or anything. I was just, the context of the scene, it was just like, wow, that stood out like a sore thumb.
Captain Marvel, for as much hype and attention as that movie got, my thing was, you know what, it wasn't that big a deal. She's a bit of a Mary Sue, fine, but the movie's kind of whatever. It's like, all right, guys, how much longer are you going to do this? Because we get it. What do you have to do to make this even? Because it's really getting, it's affecting the movies now. Because men are dicks. What else do you want to do?
Yeah, exactly. So we have this. That's kind of the main struggle in the beginning of the film, is you have Mystique and Charles that are back at odds with each other, which I don't even know if has there even been a movie where they've been on the same team since First Class? Because it seems like they're always at odds with each other, but they keep keeping each other around.
Yeah, and they always, catch up with each other, and it's literally, the ending is the same thing every time since First Class.
Yep, even with him and Eric, it's like, all right, guys, we're cool now, and then he just goes back to being evil, but. So so then Jean Grey these powers are starting to fuck with her a little bit. She's starting to lose control. She's starting to have fits that everybody is starting to get scared of her.
She likes the power. I feel really good, she says.
Yeah, it makes her feel good, and then she runs away because when she starts to be able to enter Charles's mind, she realizes that her father is still alive, which I forgot to mention. The movie opens up with a very a flashback scene where she has a fit in the car and her mother and dad presumably die in this car crash, and that's how Charles gets her to the school. Is she's an orphan that needs his help. Come to find out, Daddy's still alive. He just didn't want anything to do with his daughter.
Yeah.
And that's pretty much the tipping point from her going from X-Men to villain.
Yeah. She doesn't know that her dad didn't want her in the beginning, though. So
yeah, exactly. Yeah. So she finds out that he's alive. Yeah. She goes to the house to have a nice little reunion for him, and then quickly realizes that he never looked for her. There's no pictures of her. And right as she realizes this and starts to have a fit about it, the X-Men show up to try to help her in a subdivision where apparently nobody's home because there's all these weird people in costumes meeting in the middle of the street. There's cop cars showing up that she throws through the air and slams down. There's houses everywhere. Nobody even peeks the curtain to see what the hell's going on outside. So I don't know. That was it. I know it might be silly. Some people probably didn't even mention it, but when I saw it, I was kind of like, is nobody home? Because I would be like, what the fuck's going on outside?
Well, even in The Last Stand, where all the cops are lined up against that one house, you're focused on the one house. It's not. You're right. That choice of shot where you see like the whole block and it's just a string of houses. It's like, should we be focusing on the rest of these houses? If you could have shot it a certain way to just not make it seem so abnormal, but they did it better in Last Stand. Brett Ratner, credit to Brett Ratner. Ugh.
First time director.
Yeah, right.
And then we get the scene which kind of sets off the big events. This is the scene that the marketing led with for some odd reason, which honestly didn't make any difference to me because I'm sick of her character anyway. But Mystique tries to calm down. Now at this point, who is Phoenix? Carry on for just a second. I'll be right back.
Yeah. So Mystique is trying to talk her down or help, and Phoenix, in her rage, I don't remember if it certainly wasn't on purpose, but she was trying to get her own space, and we find out that Mystique has been impaled. She's got a nice piece of wood through her gut, and this is the first moment where I felt, oh, this is definitely rated R, because there was considerable gore. Is it rated? Wait, I don't even think it's rated R. It was considerable gore. I just remember thinking the amount of blood on screen was interesting, and I don't remember if Mystique says something. Did Mystique say something to Phoenix after the impalement?
No, she did not. Basically, so Mystique tries to help her. She has a fit, throws her, and she ends up getting stuck on some wooden spikes. It's the only person that
What is this rated R?
No.
That was a lot of gore for. I remember thinking, wow, they're showing her blood on those spikes.
Yeah. It probably pushed the PG-13 a bit. But it's the Beast runs up to her and kind of tries to console her, and I can't remember if Jean just kind of saw it and was in shock, or she just flew away immediately, or what. But yeah, she basically gets to mutter "I love you" in some way, shape, or form to Beast, and then dies. And
killed by an ex-woman.
Here's my thing with Mystique, man. Like, I love the character in the way that they use her in the original 3 films, and Rebecca Romijn, the way that she portrays her as this really cool, sexy, violent henchman. I thought Jennifer Lawrence was okay in First Class. I thought she did pretty good in Days of Future Past when she was basically being the Rebecca Romijn version of Mystique. But for whatever reason, because it's J-Law, these movies have decided to make her the focus in every single one of these films. And look, and I'm not the only one that thinks this. This is like a resounding opinion through the X-Men fans. Mystique is not that important of a character. No. She's not that interesting of a character. And it doesn't really help that Jennifer Lawrence clearly does not want to be there.
Dude, they backed into having a superstar in their franchise with that Hunger Games shit. So it was just like, all right, we have a big name under contract. Let's pivot.
Yeah, exactly. And so they always had to make her a big focus in the storyline, and they always had to have her out of the makeup because
she didn't like the makeup.
So they had, she's Jennifer Lawrence through 80% of every film that she's in, and she's Mystique for moments. And that always just annoyed the piss out of me, especially in Apocalypse, where it's like, okay, now you're really getting annoying with how much focus she's getting. So in this movie, I was fine with the fact that she died, because I was just like, thank God I don't have to focus on this character
And
anymore.
she
But then,
mailed it in, to say the very least.
yeah, to say the very least. But then the movie pulled a switcheroo on me, because then suddenly the storyline basically becomes about the X-Men tearing each other apart over the death of Mystique, and not so much over what are we going to do about Jean Grey. So I'm like, okay, this was called Dark Phoenix, but I guess it should be called The Fall of Mystique. So yeah, so you have Beast, who's extremely pissed off because the love of his life is dead.
Wait, so Mike from Bensonhurst in the chat says, how did Jean Grey have blood on her shirt when she was so far away from Mystique? That's a hell of a question.
Because movie.
Yeah, dude. And what's frustrating is as you're saying it, it's reminding me of it, but like all of this is just, it's like background noise. Like the move, I watched it and it just kind of like faded away. And now that he brought that up, I'm like, yeah, what? Wait,
And there's probably a lot of those little things
Yeah.
that it's kind of amateurish filmmaking mistakes that, like I said, if it was a good movie, you would be able to be like, yeah, but it doesn't really matter. But if it's a mediocre to bad movie, you say something like that, and you're like, you know what, you got a point. That's bullshit. Yeah, it is, because she was a good 30 feet away from her, and I don't
Yeah.
think she ever touched her. I could be wrong.
Across the street at the very least.
Yeah, I could be wrong, but I don't remember Jean Grey coming to embrace Mystique. I think she just kind of froze, and then Beast ran up to her, and then she ended up flying away, which was a very weird effect, if nothing else. It was like the Matrix when she flew away. She just kind of like looked up and went, shoo. And so yeah, so now you have the X-Men that are, torn apart. You have Charles that feels guilt, and he's being put even more guilt on by Beast. Beast is extremely pissed off because that was his love that she was about to get out of the X-Men. He convinced her to stay, and then she gets killed. All of the younger X-Men are trying to toss up the fact of whether or not Jean Grey is able to be saved or not, whether that was actually her. And then Jean runs away to find Magneto, which somehow he's secluded, but she knew exactly where to find him. So she goes, and he's like in the middle of, midsummer with some other X-Men.
Some darker folks.
Yeah, some darker folks, and he's just trying to, like we find Eric at the beginning of almost every single one of these films. He's just off doing his own thing, trying to be left alone. Some big event brings him back, and so Jean, go ahead.
The one thing I liked, I got a very Warriors feel from his group to the X-Men group, because they were in their blue and yellow gear, and there's Magneto with a bunch of people in the old school, or not old school, but the 2000s. They all had like dark gray or black. It was very teamy. It was kind of funky.
Yeah. Michael Fassbender and Magneto, basically, he knows something's up. He sees the blood on her shirt. He doesn't know why this girl's trying to find him. He tries to get a couple of answers, but before he can, the government shows up, and she fucks shit up, and he basically helps however many he can save escape and tells her to leave. So once again, she's off on her own.
Hold that thought. Renegade Hero says, what about Quicksilver? Which I do remember him
Oh,
being
yeah.
something.
Yeah, that's right. So right before Mystique, or right after, I really don't remember. Right during the Mystique death scene, he does his little time freeze thing where he's running and he's going on debris, and she basically swats him away, and he's like injured beyond belief at just hitting the ground really quick, and he's out for count. The rest of the movie, he's out. So boom, he had like a minute of Rocky just stole my words, a minute of screen time. So he had the little spaceship scene, and then bye. Go be on American Horror Story. We're done with you. So yeah, so even that character, if you're a fan of him, and he's had two of the standout scenes in the past two movies, he does not have one here.
Yeah, if you can give Fox one thing, it's their Quicksilver was certainly better than the Avengers one.
Oh yeah, by miles. So yeah, thank for throwing that in, Renegade Hero. So yeah, so you have that as well. So Magneto knows something's up. Jean Grey is off on her own again. And now I'm going to struggle for connecting the dots of where the story goes.
Yeah, so isn't part of it that Magneto or has some sort of assumption that she's responsible because he's still got that fling, I guess you could call it, with Mystique, and there's something that he knows, either he suspects or he knows that Jean is responsible for Mystique dying.
Well,
and
he
that's why they
knows that
split up.
she's done something because he sees the blood on her shirt and she won't answer him, but he doesn't think anything about Mystique until Beast shows up.
Right, right.
So Beast shows up at the same place with the X-wing, and or the X-jet, whatever you want to call it, and basically tells Magneto that Jean Grey has killed Mystique, and they both, since they were both fucking, he's like, oh, that bitch. So he goes, and it's kind of a cool scene where he takes a little case off, and he dusts off the old Magneto helmet, puts it on, and now it's time to wreck shit. So now you have two factions. You have the X-Men, and then you have Magneto and friends, and Beast now, who has kind of switched sides, going after Jean Grey for two different reasons. One team wants to save her, the other team wants to kill her. Which is an interesting idea on paper, but again, much like the Charles Xavier thing, I don't think the switch that Beast goes through is really earned. I understand that it's a big motivation that she died, but he's been such unapologetically good character for 3 films now that just suddenly out of the blue, okay, fuck the X-Men, fuck Charles Xavier, I'm just going to go murder this girl.
Yeah.
It just doesn't feel earned. At least they didn't execute it in a way where it feels natural.
Do you know, the more we talk about this, the more the disappointments I have in Brightburn, if you take these 2 movies and just kind of blend them, if you take some of the aspects of what Brightburn was going through and put it in Jean Grey's character, it might be a fuller movie, because you have reasons to understand, give her a struggle. She's just kind of meh because Dad doesn't like her anymore, and it really, the second act is really kind of weak, because all right, so she's on the move because everybody's trying to get to her, because the aliens now albino Jessica Chastain wants the power, because apparently they were following the space dust before Phoenix Jean, whatever you want to call her, before she soaked it up, and they're trying to get a hold of her. Team A is trying to get a hold of her for good reasons. Team B is trying to get a hold of her for bad reasons, and there's just not much interesting about what they're chasing, in my opinion, at least.
No, you're exactly right. I mean, and it's funny too, because I keep going to my point about how useless the Jessica Chastain group is in this movie. I haven't even felt the need to explain their presence in the movie yet, and I'm still nailing the plot synopsis of the film without any hiccups. There's no spots where it's like, wait a minute, how's that work?
Yeah, it wasn't important for you to know that. That's
yeah, exactly. They're in the background doing things because. And Mike from Bensonhurst actually makes a really good comparison. He said, "What the hell was up with Charles Xavier? It was being a celebrity. Reminded me of Loomis in H2." And not quite to that degree, but it's basically the same thing, where it's like such a character departure. So that's actually a really good comparison.
Halle Berry's not in the movie.
Yeah, she's not.
But Storm is, but not Halle Berry.
Storm is, but she has nothing to do. Nightcrawler is, but he has nothing to do except for that one scene at the end and the scene in the beginning.
She blows smoke through a hole in the train, but I guess we'll get to that.
Yeah, I mean, she has a scene, but I mean, as far as a purpose in the story, no. So that's the other issue. So now we have, like you said, we're now at a point in the second act where everybody's after Jean Grey. She's being embraced by these aliens, basically kind of the whisper in the ear of, we want you to embrace your power, much like Magneto did in The Last Stand. This movie hits all the same exact plot beats of Last Stand. It's just small little tweaks. You have the broken past. Something happened with Jean that Charles Xavier scooped her up and blocked her from it. You have the ignited event where she accidentally kills a member of the X-Men. Once it was Cyclops, now it's Mystique. You have Team A and Team B going after her. One wants her for evil, one wants to save her. And it's the same shit over and over again, just tweaked and lateral moved a little bit. So now we get basically, once you go into the third act, this is where the movie picks up a bit. Magneto and friends and X-Men meet at this museum. They know that Jean is inside. You get a pretty cool scene where Magneto, they're all fighting on the outside. Magneto makes his way into the museum, pulls a subway train in to block him in, and she knows he's there to kill her. She lifts him up and basically asks him if he's there to kill her, and he's like, absolutely. And she just, her power is a little bit more than his power. He's sitting there frozen. She starts crushing his head, and then the shit just explodes and he gets knocked back into the wall. It's the first time you really see Magneto get his ass kicked,
Mm,
with not a whole lot of effort.
mm.
So it's now we're at the point where it's
Dale says hi.
hello, Dale. Um,
I did it.
yeah, there you go. So now I'm trying to think. So they pretty much get knocked back. Jean and the aliens escape, and I'm trying to think of where the movie really went from here to get to
New York City.
the government. The government shows up. That's right. The government shows up, starts trank darting everybody, putting these collars on them, which I guess subdue their powers. But lo and behold, the government takes everybody and puts them on a subway train, including Jean Grey. You have that scene. This is what I forgot. So after Magneto gets his ass kicked, Charles Xavier makes his way into the museum, and she makes him walk up the stairs, which is an interesting scene-ish. But you get up there, and basically it's much like the scene in The Last Stand where they're in that house, and she has him lifted, and all the dust is flying around, and he's kind of like holding on, staring at her, trying to get into her head. It's much like that scene. It's the scene where Jean is trying to kill him, and he's trying to get through to Jean. He's trying to say that, you know, I love you regardless of what you think. I want to help you. And she starts hearing thoughts or getting memories of how much he's helped her as a kid, and she realizes what she's doing is wrong, and she wants to be done with this power. So Jessica Chastain goes to grab her to take the power away from her.
Yeah, and get a power hug. They're like,
yeah. So halfway through her powering up and taking the power from Jean, Cyclops comes in and shoots her, and now they both have half power, I guess. And then they get tranked. They get put on the train while Jessica Chastain escapes. And this was where I didn't really... It was weird in a way, but I guess they're using the collars as a script convenience. It was weird having all these people on a train where Magneto couldn't do anything because there was steel everywhere.
Steel,
but I guess,
surrounded in steel.
Yeah, I guess the little collars were subduing their powers, but still, that's just a very easy little thing.
I bet they said, hey, you know what? Deadpool 2 introduced this weird collar thing. We'll just roll with it and not because that's how they got Deadpool and that flamey kid in jail in Deadpool 2. Those necklaces, but I could have swore they didn't do it nearly as nicely in Dark Phoenix, and it becomes Snowpiercer from
and it was
from here.
Decades after as well.
Right,
still in the 90s.
Right.
So yeah, that's one of those things where it's like, okay, you're either on board for this little plot element, or you look at it and you go, okay, whatever. Mm-hmm. The aliens show up on this subway train. They start wreaking havoc. They knock a guard into the button that releases all the collars, and now we have X-Men that are all friends now. Just a little conversation on the train, and everybody's on the same page again.
You know
and
what?
They're trying to
let me cut in for a second. There was a moment where I have to give credit, because one of the guards talks to Nightcrawler and says, you know, my son looked up to you or something like that. And there was a moment like when the aliens were hovering, and Nightcrawler was trying to tell him, listen, you know, he's right to think that. Let me show you. And that was a nice little moment there where it was like, all right, so there's this emotional little thing here between the guard and Nightcrawler, and that was kind of it. Because after that, it's an accident. It's not like the guard was like, you know what, go do your thing. It was a nice moment that could have went a little bit further and perhaps stretched out a little bit more of the movie. There's a couple of neat ideas, and there's a couple of large misses, but that moment I remember thinking, all right, they're spending time with some feeling here. You know, the guards are torn. They don't know which side to trust, and then it just becomes an accident and kind of wasted opportunity.
Yeah, that's a good point. I didn't even really think about that scene as much as you did, but when you lay it out like that, well, that was a missed opportunity.
It's not that big a deal, mind you. It's just like, you had something there, but all right, go ahead, do what you're doing.
Yep, exactly. They could have slow cooked that idea a little bit more, and it could have been a little better. So now we have probably the most exciting sequence in the film, really, which, ironically enough, is an entire reshoot, because the entire third act of this film is reshot. It was going to have something in space, but they said that it was too close to another comic book film, so I'm guessing it had too much similarities to Endgame, maybe. But they reshot the entire third act of this film,
And
and
so
for
they
this,
reshot it as Snowpiercer.
yep. So the aliens are on this subway car or this metal train. The X-Men are now released. Jean Grey is still locked up and in like a trance.
All the way in the front.
Yeah, all the way in the front.
They got to make their way to her.
And it was a kind of cool little action sequence. Again, like this is the most exciting action-packed part of the movie, and even this, it's not even in like top 6 or 7 sequences we've seen in this franchise. Magneto gets to do some cool stuff where he takes a whole train car and crushes it and just throws it down and stuff. But it's stuff we've seen him do before.
Yeah.
Nightcrawler
It has all the guns pointing at Jessica Chastain. And
yeah, he pulls all these machine guns out and has them all shoot at her. And Nightcrawler gets a cool moment where he teleports somebody outside and smiles at her and teleports out of the way and a train hits her. There were some cool little moments in that scene. This was the one scene in the movie where I was like, okay, this is kind of cool. This is Simon Kinberg doing some pretty good directing with this action sequence. I liked it. I don't know what the original ending was, so it's hard to compare something I haven't seen. But if this was the intended third act, it is the coolest part of the movie. And then they fight their way all the way through to the last car, and as soon as they pretty much break through, Jean Grey wakes up, releases herself, and then starts fucking everybody up Thanos style, where she just touches people and they go into dust. And then it ends up.
Doesn't she elevate the train too and do like a spinny thing where the train's
which
doing
is another cool little thing where they lifts the train off the tracks and starts rotating it until they get to this little parking lot or something. But she starts taking out all the aliens one by one while everybody just kind of stands and watches. And then it's her and Jessica Chastain. And Jessica Chastain starts to kind of take the power. Then maybe for a moment it's like she realizes she can't handle it, and Jean Grey takes her hand and puts it back on her neck, and she's like, "You're going to take all the power." And then we get the thing which was you could see from a mile away, where her using all this energy to wipe out Jessica Chastain is going to wipe out everybody else if she goes through with it. Yeah. So she looks at Charles for a moment of, acknowledgement, and then launches into the air and finishes it in space.
A la Iron Man at the end of Avengers. There's so many things. It's like, all right, that's been done before. That's been done before.
Everything in this film. If it wasn't done in another franchise, it was done in the X-Men franchise before. That's the other problem I had with it, is every single thing this movie does, good and bad, I've seen done in other X-Men films. So then we have that. So they explode into energy. Jessica Chastain's done. You're led to believe that Jean Grey is done, but really you can kind of tell that she's just kind of absorbed into this cosmic dust somehow. And then that's basically the end of the movie. I mean, they name the school Jean Grey School, which we're back on track, I guess. Charles has learned from this experience. Eric meets him in a little dining area to play.
You skipped the line. You skipped the best line by Cyclops in the history of ever.
Oh God, yeah. So this was in the museum scene. This was when Magneto's trying to get in, and Charles is basically telling him, if you do this now, you're going to undo everything I've worked for, and they're just going to see us as freaks fighting in the street. And he basically lets him know, I'm going to kill this girl. And then Scott Summers just steps ahead he just puts one foot forward. He's like,
big swinging dick. He's like, oh yeah,
you touch her and I'll fucking kill you. And it was like, everybody in the theater was just kind of like, wow. Yeah. Like it's Scott Summers should be a badass character like that, but they've never planted him in that position. They literally took a Wolverine line and gave it to Scott Summers. And my God, does it not land? Yeah. Like, it's like, okay, kid, sit down.
Yeah. Cool story, bro.
Yeah, exactly. It's like Magneto would fucking destroy you in 2 seconds. Like, you're not like, you were awesome in the first couple X-Men films, but you were still kind of in the background for Wolverine's sake.
Yeah.
But even with this new class, they just, and especially in this film, they just never really planted him in that position yet. So just that line, it was so out of nowhere because he's literally nothing in the scene. He's just in the background. They're having their little dialogue, and everybody else is just watching. And then he just kind of pokes his head into the camera. He's like, "I'll fucking kill you, bro!" And it's just like, wow. So, that was the other moment where the line delivery or the writing was just not.
The writing's soft. It's very soap opera-y. The last shot, a la the Batman v Superman. They show they show the school, and then they tilt to the sky, and then you see a little phoenix flame thing shooting across the sky,
Mm-hmm.
and it was a little homage, like maybe not an homage, but still
Hey
alive.
guys, she's still alive.
Yeah,
That's
yeah,
basically what it was, and
yeah.
it's like this is the last movie. We don't fucking care.
Mm.
So yeah, so that's pretty much that's basically the plot of the movie. I mean, I don't think I missed any details. There's lines and little individual moments that were pretty good. There's individual moments that were a little poor. The script overall, like CP says, is just very for a guy that has written a lot of these movies is very first draft amateurish. Hey
Mm.
guys, we need to go to this place and then cut to that place.
Yeah,
Um,
Emily wanted to leave somewhere in the middle end of the second act, and if we didn't have a second movie to go see, I wouldn't have finished this movie. I was like, just wait, we're staying here anyway. And she was like hemming and hawing. She's like, these lines are so trite. Everything's just so plain and boring, and we've heard it before and cliche. And I'm like, she can't stand weak scripts, and it was like, I'm sorry, she's not a comic person to begin with, and then to sit through a weak script, I'm like, don't blame it on me. Thank you, Ma, for being a decent movie. That's what I'll say.
yeah, can I get a pillow for the couch, please? Oh man, yeah. So I mean, it's the biggest issue with the film is just it just feels so been there, done that. It feels so mediocre throughout. Like I said, there's nothing inherently terrible about it. There's a couple lines that are terrible, but there's not like moments in this film where it's like Jesus Christ. Like there's no.
Really, I think this would be a perfect movie to do like a riff on, like a commentary where you're just kind of getting a little drunk
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
and having fun with what they're doing.
oh yeah, for sure. But yeah, it's one of those movies. It's just middle of the road, pretty
Yeah.
much the entire way through. There's nothing exciting. There's nothing like stand out. There's nothing that like happens here where it's like you cannot finish the X-Men franchise until you see that happen. Like you could leave it at Apocalypse and Logan and be totally fine. This
Leave it
movie
at
gives
Logan.
you absolutely nothing to merit its existence, which is a shame because you have the guy that wrote The Last Stand that supposedly it got tweaked a little bit and messed with the director and with another writer, which sure, but you have a guy that's revisiting his own script and basically delivers the same script, but I'll say it worse, a worse script. Yes, The Last Stand has more facepalm moments in it, but The Last Stand also has much bigger and better moments in it, like Wolverine's sacrifice for Jean Grey, like the opening sequence with the digital Sentinels.
Dude, the Golden Gate Bridge, as much
Yeah.
as that's an awe-inspiring scene, like you were talking about before. There's nothing in this movie that you're like, wow. At least when he's fucking moving the Golden Gate Bridge, it's quite impressive looking. It's a neat shot.
Yeah, exactly. I rewatched The Last Stand yesterday because that's the biggest comparison that people are going to make is The Last Stand and Dark Phoenix. And like I said, Dark Phoenix does not have the lows that The Last Stand reached, but it doesn't even have the highs that The Last Stand reached. The Last Stand has much bigger moments and better moments and much worse moments. The Dark Phoenix is just it stays right here in the low middle the entire time.
John Kyle Stanton, $5 in the super chat. Thank you. Getting drunk watching this movie. Done.
Enjoy.
Check.
I'm somebody that I've never been able to watch a movie drunk and enjoy it more. I actually get more pissed off at it. The only movie that I saw in the theaters drunk was Grown Ups, and I hated it.
Oh.
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah.
Yeah, they say watch it drunk, you'll have more fun, and I was like, I was drunk, I was just mad, and then I
Yeah.
endangered myself by leaving early because I didn't even watch the whole movie. But yeah, I mean, it's just, it bums me out because I'm one of those guys that really rooted for the X-Men. I really liked what the 20th Century Fox X-Men franchise has given us. It has had some low moments, but it's had a lot of high moments that I don't think it quite gets enough credit for, and it just sucks that this is what we're left with. This is the last taste of X-Men that we're going to get for presumably at least 2 or 3 years. I don't think we're going to see it in the MCU anytime soon. And when we do, it's going to be very different, and I don't know how I'm going to receive it because at least Fox took a lot of risks with Logan, with Deadpool, even with some of the directions they went, like with Days of Future Past.
They kept trying to make Fantastic Four happen too.
Yeah. And then it just, I don't know if the MCU is going to utilize X-Men the way that Fox has utilized them. But time will tell. But just a shame overall that this is the last movie that we've seen. Like I said, it's not a movie I hate, but it's in that weird area of it's not terrible, but because it's just monotone the whole way through, I just don't ever see myself rewatching it because there's no like really bad moments that I kind of look forward to. There's no really great moments that I kind of look forward to. Like I could rewatch The Last Stand. I just did and enjoy it for what it is. I could probably even rewatch X-Men Origins and just laugh at how terrible some of that shit is.
Yeah.
But this is one of those movies where it just sits in that like C minus C area where it's like there's just not a whole lot on either end of the spectrum to really latch onto.
Yeah. Well, it's funny you bring up the X-Men franchise. We were talking about this last night with Child's Play. Child's Play is a much more confined franchise, a series where the ceiling isn't too high, but the floor is nowhere near as low. I would say the same thing about X-Men. There's no real, there's no Dark Knights in this franchise, but then again, there's no
Logan.
Right. Well, all right, that's fair. But there's no real Daredevils in this franchise.
No.
Elektra.
Yeah, and that's pretty much where it's at for that. So it's just I don't know. It's a movie that's going to come and go. Nobody's going to be talking about Dark Phoenix in less than a week or so,
yeah.
And it's not. Everybody at the end of the year they're going to go, oh yeah, Dark Phoenix came out this year.
It fucked up hard too because apparently it was expected to make 20 million on Friday and only made 14.
Wow.
And that's not good for comic book movies.
Dude, I went to there's one theater at the one that I go to that's like the big one. It's called the GTX. It's not quite like IMAX, but it's like the closest you're going to get to IMAX without having an IMAX. And that's always the one. That's always the one that gets packed out with new movies, especially comic book films. I saw this at the first showing on Thursday with about 12 people.
Ugh.
Like there was almost nobody there, and I was like, wow, this is not a good sign. Cody, the original plan was trilogy. At start of filming, it was a two-parter, then buyout announced and cut to one film. That's possible. I haven't heard that, but I mean, anything's. I haven't really dove into this movie.
It should be over full then.
Yeah, there wasn't even enough here for one movie. So
yeah,
it's
I go to bat for a movie like Jupiter Ascending, as sloppy as that is, and my thing has always been with something like Jupiter Ascending, there's way too much in that movie. You take that and make that a trilogy, perhaps it's easier to swallow. This movie, if this is supposed to be 3 movies condensed, man, I don't care. Like what are we gonna do with 2 extra movies of this?
Yeah, exactly. So I don't know where in the plan that changed. Maybe before they even wrote the movie that they had to change that and condense it to 1. I don't know. I did read something that was interesting though. It was what's the director of First Class? He's the guy that did Kingsman. He did Kick-Ass.
Oh shit!
I'll have to look it up.
Yeah. I want to say it's not Michael Dougherty. What the fuck am I thinking of?
Yeah, it's not.
No, Michael Dougherty's a Trick or Treat.
Somebody will chime in before we get it. Yeah. Right when we get it, somebody will come in.
Matthew Vaughn.
Okay, so I read something yesterday that was pretty interesting, or a couple of days ago, that Matthew Vaughn presented a plan whenever he took over in First Class that he was going to do First Class. The second movie was going to be Apocalypse, and he was going to end a trilogy with Days of Future Past. And he wrote most of the script, if not all of it, for Days of Future Past that we actually saw, that Bryan Singer came in and directed. And his script was so good for Days of Future Past that they wanted to fast track and do that one. And he basically told Fox, he's like, why? He's like, after Days of Future Past, where are you going to go? He's like, trust me, close it with Days of Future Past. Let that be your finale. And as much as I love that film, I love Days of Future Past, and I think it was a great way to kind of bridge the gap, a great way to fix the mistakes of some of the previous films with the way that it ends. It makes a lot of sense, and it might have actually ended up being better if they listened to Matthew Vaughn. Because Apocalypse ended up being a bit of a stinker after Days of Future Past was kind of coming out with all the heavy hitters. So I could see where the First Class could lead up to Apocalypse and that big event, and then Days of Future Past close it out, and it might have been an even better way to kind of do this First Class version of these films.
Yeah,
I mean, hindsight's 2020, but
Well, I mean, so what's so somebody brought it up before. I just want to touch on it. Somebody brought up the score, Hans Zimmer's decent score, which brilliant point, but also something you've heard before. If you go and listen to the Sherlock Holmes score by Hans Zimmer, it's very similar. There's a lot of similar beats.
I there was moments in the score that was decent, but I'm of the opinion of, does Bryan Singer own the rights to the X-Men score or something? Because they only use that score in movies that he directs. That dun, da, 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 da. You only hear that in the openings and throughout the movies that he's directed.
I
Because it
like
went
the
away in
first class score. The first class score is pretty good.
I'd have to rewatch it, but I've always loved the X-Men score. It just gets me pumped,
Yeah.
you know. Dun 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 dun
Yeah.
dun 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 dun. And when I didn't hear it at the beginning of this movie, I'm like, is it like a contract where only if he directs it, they're only allowed to use that score?
Dude, I'm telling you,
Because-
it's the Sherlock Holmes score. If you go back and watch the 2009 with the Robert Downey Jr. Sherlock Holmes, it's the same score, and it's Hans Zimmer. They're both Hans Zimmer, so it's just like, are you borrowing from each other yourself?
Yeah, I mean, well,
It's
I mean,
shocking.
Hans Zimmer is the man, but you got to
Uh-huh.
admit, like when you have a movie like Dark Phoenix, where he probably didn't really care about putting his best foot
Let me get one
forward
of these
a
old
lot.
ones out.
Turn it down a couple of notches and tweak some things. There you go.
No, I put a synth sound here.
I could just see Hans Zimmer on the phone, like, "What? It's due tomorrow."
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So wait, with New Mutants technically coming out in April, that would be the end of the Fox era, wouldn't it? If it's gonna.
Well, yes, this is the end of X-Men. Because
Now-
X-Men has nothing to do with New Mutants. That's just in the universe. But yes, that would technically be the last Fox X-Men universe-ish film. But I mean, that thing is so up in
Dude,
the air. Like,
mark my
they still
words.
haven't even done reshoots. There's still talk about it maybe going to a streaming service or Hulu, or Hulu, however you pronounce it.
And if this movie tanks the way it's looking like it's going to, they're gonna pull the plug because if they can't bank on X-Men, you think they're gonna fucking bank on New Mutants?
yeah, that's the other thing. Like, this might be one of those films that just they straight up just canceled.
Yeah.
Like, okay, forget it. It's a lost cause.
It rings
Especially
all over
with
again.
Yeah, especially with Disney taking over, and they're the ones kind of making the decisions. They're like, nope.
Yeah.
So I don't know where their authority goes over movies that are already in production or not. But it's
Dude, it's,
even Maisie Williams. There's interviews with her where they're like, hey, what's up with that New Mutants thing? And she's actually quoted saying almost exactly this: who knows whenever the fuck that thing's coming out? It's like, all right. And Arya Stark tells you it ain't happening, you can take it to the bank. So yeah, I don't know. I was looking forward to the New Mutants more
that
than I was
trailer
Dark
was
Phoenix.
awesome.
Yeah. So that's
Remember
a shame.
back in before. It feels like it was back before 2016.
Yeah,
It was a
Yep.
while ago. That damn trailer.
that trailer surprised everybody. They're like, "Holy shit, a horror movie!" And that's when everybody was like, "I don't want Disney to own this. They're never going to make movies like this." Yeah, so I don't know
Deadpool's the
what
same
the hell.
thing. What are they
I
gonna
don't
do
know.
with Deadpool?
Yeah, I don't know what the hell happened with that movie. They need to just release it as is and quit worrying about whatever they think they need to reshoot.
Yeah.
Well, do you have any more thoughts on this film, or do you want to go to the chat for 15 minutes or so? I'll probably have to cut off at 3:30, but
It's unnoteworthy, and for all the wrong reasons. I might watch it again for the sake of maybe they'll release some crazy box set or something, and but I'm intrigued to see it, perhaps even just to riff on it. But I forgot about stuff walking out of the theater. Like I had to be reminded of it, so it just hasn't stuck with me. And anything that has is for the worst reasons. It's all been done before. Nothing sticks out. Ho hum.
Yep, that's pretty much it. So our buddy Brian Lomax really liked this film. I would love to hear his thoughts. I would love to do a commentary with him. I tried to get him on here, but I had a little hiccup, so I had to postpone this, and then I couldn't get a hold of him in time, so I think he might have gotten busy. But there's at least some people out there that are really enjoying this, because I've actually seen some Facebook posts where I think people have gone in with such low expectations from the Rotten Tomato scores and from people saying it's the worst of the worst that they actually walk out enjoying it. So there is some people enjoying it. If you're on the fence at all after this spoiler talk, I think it's a matinee at least wait for the matinee. I would not go out and spend like $17 on a ticket or anything for an IMAX or a 3D. So just
Yeah, I mean, like even if you're a diehard X-Men fan,
yeah, that's what I mean. It's just like like I gave it a stream it, like a low stream it. Like okay, if you wait and it's on Netflix, sure, there's worse things you can do with your time. But I honestly, this is one of those times where it's like, watch Logan, imagine that's the end, and you'll be more satisfied than what you will with this, because all it's going to do is raise questions that you're never going to get answered and leave people in spots that you don't want to see them left in. So
good point, Dennis. Dennis says reshoots are going to be hard at this point with people having aged. Yeah, Macy Williams is fucking, she's legal at this point.
Yeah, no shit. Yep. 5-star Justice League deja vu.
Oh yeah,
throwing shade. Yeah.
I don't know if he said 5 stars, but he said, "Am I the only one that enjoyed this?" And we're like, "Yes."
Well, no, I think he's comparing it because he gave Justice League 5 stars when he first saw it, and then after the honeymoon phase was over, he was like, "Oh, yeah, I kind of regret that review." So,
well, yeah,
we'll
like,
see.
In our stream chat, I remember I was still finishing, like I still had 20 minutes to go in the movie, and he was like, "Am I the only one that enjoyed this movie?" And I'm like, "Unless this third act really turns around, yes."
Yep, we ragged on it, Lee ragged on it, and then he was just like, "So yes." Oh man, what is off the top of your head, if you can? I'm not going to do mine because I'm going to do a video later on. But do you have the ability to rank the franchise really quick from the bottom to the top? From the bottom, including Deadpool.
Let me cheat and look at those shitty ones. So, yeah, from the bottom to the top. I'll say X-Men Origins Wolverine at the bottom. Like that's ridiculous. That
yes.
Dark Phoenix has a worse score than that. That guys, come on.
Yes.
Wolverine, X-Men Origins Wolverine bottom. Dark Phoenix second from bottom. Plain old Wolverine, the 2013 version.
The one in Japan.
Yeah, that one next. The Last Stand. Oh shit. The first
Apocalypse.
Oh right. Apocalypse. The first X-Men. Days of Future Past. X2. First Class. Did I miss one?
Logan and Deadpool 2.
All right. Put Deadpool 2 below Days of Future Past. Logan is number 1. And Deadpool is below First Class.
Okay.
Sorry.
That's close. That's close. I know it's hard to do it verbally.
Yeah, without looking at the list, too. I had to cheat and look at the shitty ones.
Yeah, that's close to my ranking. There's a couple of movements I'll have in there. But yeah, it's a franchise where you see a lot of different. You see some people that really don't care for First Class. You see some people that put it as number 1 easily. I saw somebody yesterday that had X2 as their second worst, which is shocking to me because like for the longest time I thought that was like the greatest comic movie ever made. A lot of different reception for the first X-Men as time has gone by.
Yeah.
And then Deadpool and Deadpool 2, there's 2 different people in this world, people who prefer Deadpool and people who prefer Deadpool 2. So you see those swapped a lot with people's rankings. Okay. Yeah, I think the first one's pretty clearly the better one of the 2. But I think probably 70-30.
I think
70 on my side with that.
I think they're both really solid. I just think the first one's better.
Yes, I agree. So yeah, I'll probably have my ranking out late tonight, if not early tomorrow morning, depending on how the rest of this day goes. But it's a fun franchise to kind of talk about. But turning it over to the chat, guys, for the next 15 minutes, if you guys want to ask some questions about X-Men, about Dark Phoenix, we'll kind of defer to you guys for the remaining topics.
New Mutants is the new Superman Lives, says the Smoky S's. With that said, I'll say Dark Phoenix is the new Superman Returns, because you're going to forget about this one.
Yep, there you go.
I flat out passed on Phoenix. Can easily wait for the home media release. Yeah.
The Blue Corner, if Deadpool wasn't in Origins and it was some random mutant, I don't think it would be nearly as hated as it is. It's not just Deadpool. That's the Deadpool thing is one of those things. Every movie that's hated has that one detail that everybody just latches onto, and that's the only reason that they give. And Deadpool, while being a big screw up of that character, is the last thing that's wrong with that movie.
Yeah.
The story's really rough. The CGI is atrocious. Like when his claws look fake, you got a problem. The whole thing with the adamantium bullet is the only way to kill the adamantium man. I'm like, that doesn't even make basic logic sense, but whatever. There's a lot of issues with that film, but Deadpool was just the one that comic book nerds latched onto. They're like, you took the mouth away from the merc with the mouth.
Yeah.
Fuck you.
Yeah, if you watch that trailer too for X-Men Origins Wolverine, it that's a way different movie. Like that trailer's a lot better looking than what actually happens, and the trailer. Never mind.
Exactly.
Craig Norrie, who would you cast as the main mutants in the MCU X-Men? Please don't say Tom Hardy.
No, I don't want Tom Hardy as Wolverine. Tom Hardy is already Bane, and he's already Venom. He doesn't need to be Wolverine. I want somebody kind of off the cuff for Wolverine, just like how Hugh Jackman was. I don't have a casting pick for Hugh Jackman because I'm still way too attached to Hugh Jackman. We've got... That's a hard question to do on the spot. Yeah, I don't know if I can answer that without taking forever. I want people that aren't attached to other big comic book characters. I'll just say that.
Yeah, and
I don't want to. Even though this worked out very good, I don't want like a Chris Evans where you have the Flash playing Captain America. I don't want them to go that approach.
Right. Plus, you need somebody that if the thing succeeds, that they got
to be able to play him for 10, 20 years.
Yeah, they're not going to tap out because I did something else that's kind of good too. So, I'm stuck.
I would have to sit for a while and look over names to kind of give that question. That's a hard on the spot one.
Yeah.
I'm still in shock that Harry Thomas said Dark Phoenix is better than Logan. That's fucking ridiculous. Look, I'm up for the whole like everything is subjective, everybody has their own opinion, but I will not listen to anybody that says that Logan is below Dark Phoenix. I'm sorry. That's
Were
the most
reasons
ridiculous.
Why?
Yeah, if you have any little bullet point notes on what he said, that's asinine to me. That's like
Wolverine dies.
That's like saying Batman Forever is better than Dark Knight. I mean, it's just not. You know what I mean? It's just I'm not going to listen to that. Let me see. Fans of the Bond films, sure. I have not seen any of the old ones. I've only seen the Pierce Brosnan ones and the Daniel Craig ones.
Likewise.
I love GoldenEye. I have a lot of guilty pleasure fun with The World Is Not Enough. I love Casino Royale, and I love Skyfall. Beyond that, I can pretty much take or leave them.
I have that box set with all of them, and
Me
I
too.
haven't utilized it. Although it might be in Denmark still.
I bought it because it was a couple of months ago. It went on sale for like $60.
Yeah.
I was like, "There's like 40 movies here."
Yeah, it was
what
like
is it 20, 28
like
or something
$3
like
a
that.
movie you were getting. Yeah.
Yeah, so I got it just to kind of. Again, I'm a whore, but I don't know when I'll pull out Octopussy to give that a run. So we'll see. But yeah, in general, am I a fan of Bond? Yes.
Do you like Guardians of the Galaxy? There you go, Sergio. That's a good question. It's not straight hatred. Do you all like Guardians of the Galaxy more or First Class?
Guardians of the Galaxy all the way.
I'll go on the other side. I really like First Class. I really quite enjoy First Class.
I really like most of First Class, but there's elements of that movie that annoy the piss out of me. I love Eric. I love Charles. I love everything with like the time period and the Cold War. I thought Kevin Bacon was an awesome villain.
January Jones is okay too.
Yeah, you got January Jones. He's okay. What annoyed me so much about that movie, which is something that I just have a really... It's a pet peeve of mine with prequels, is when it's the constant like wink and nod, tapping you on the shoulder. Remember that stuff from the other movies? And there's the scene where she's like, when they're picking their names and Charles and Eric show up, they're like, "Hey, we're picking names and we think you should be Professor X and you should be Magneto and we're going to be called the X-Men." And it's just it's so on the nose. Or like at the end where she's like, you could be called the X-Men, and there's all these little wink and nod moments like that literally every single one makes me go, ugh.
Delivered by Jennifer Lawrence, too. She seems to be the cringe deliverer in this franchise.
Yes, so there's moments like that throughout the whole movie where I'm like, Jesus Christ. But everything else is great. But that's just... Guardians of the Galaxy is like my third favorite MCU film or something like that. So I'll give that the edge.
Will you buy Dark Phoenix when it comes out? I think you already said probably not.
I'm a whore, so yes.
Oh,
But
really? I'm gonna need it in some sort of set. That or
well, I already have the first trilogy in 4K, and I have the second trilogy in 4K, the little two box set. So if it's just the single movie I have to buy, that's fine with me. But it won't be like a day one, like I have to get it the Best Buy Steelbook or anything like that. But yeah, I'm shameless about that.
are we sticking to X-Men stuff here?
I'd like to, but I mean, okay. He asked the question anyway. What is your thoughts on the Sonic the Hedgehog movie?
It got delayed.
I watched the trailer. I'm curious for Jim Carrey, and that is it. Because Jim Carrey looks like 90s Jim Carrey in it. And I'm curious. They showed the little tease, like the full-on Robotnik look at the end. That makes me curious as a longtime Sonic fan. I didn't think the design of Sonic was as atrocious as everybody thought it was, but it does... I'm in the middle on the fact that they've delayed it to fix it, because on one end, it's kind of a dangerous precedent because fans on the internet are never happy with anything.
Right.
So it's kind of opening the door for people thinking they have the right to bitch on Twitter and change movies. But at the same time, it's cool to see a creative guy go, listen, the fans don't like it. It's my job to make sure the movie's as good as possible, so I'm going to do what I can to make it better. I'm in the middle on it.
It's a larger scale version of Child's Play we were just talking about yesterday. Mm-hmm. They don't like the look of Chucky and Child's Play just rolling forward. They just released better pictures. Sonic, like, what did you didn't like the way he looked? What if the movie was really good outside of the way he looked? Which apparently, you look to something like Aladdin, which, man, that got ripped to shreds when that first trailer came out.
Yeah, and it worked.
It was a good
really
movie.
Good.
It was an okay movie. Yeah, I was looking to hate it, and
yes,
I was completely fine with it. I mean, it's noticeable a little bit, but the story itself was good enough that, listen, I'm not. They tell you that if you're focusing on stupid shit like oh, their hair is a different thing in that one scene than it is now, like you're not watching the movie. Mm-hmm. So if you're worried about teeth on Sonic the Hedgehog, you don't care about the story, like.
And let's be honest, like, look, I'm not saying Sonic is a ridiculous character, but you're taking a character and you're doing the Smurf treatment where he's the only CGI thing in the movie. Yeah. There's not any version of that character that's going to not look ridiculous to a degree. So
it's a blue hedgehog.
Yeah,
with
so I don't
shoes
know.
on.
I don't like the approach of this worn out movie style, like fucking Yogi Bear and Smurfs and Alvin and the Chipmunks, where let's take a cartoon character and stick them with real people and make a movie out of it. It's like you could make a Sonic the Hedgehog movie that's full-on CGI, like Illumination style or something, and make it be really cool. Yeah. But just aside from Jim Carrey, only because he looks like classic Jim Carrey in the trailer, I would pass on it very easily.
The other thing is, listen, I don't know what you have kids. Perhaps you can answer this. Is Sonic relevant like that the way it would be to us?
That's the other problem with it. And I said that when I think on Twitter the day they released the trailer, I was like, do they really think that kids even know who the fuck Sonic is? Like, anybody that wants to see a Sonic movie is our age.
Yeah. And that's exactly what I thought. I'm like, all right, you're making a kids movie for adults.
Yeah. So, yeah, Sonic has not had the staying power that Mario has had. Like, he's had a couple of decent games since then, but the prime era of Sonic was early 90s.
Yeah.
And he's not been a big, heavy hitter in the video game world, regardless how big of a fan you are. You can't dispute that since the 90s.
Right. Toy Story looks great on 4K Smoky S's.
Yeah, I got the three steelbooks that you got as well. So I haven't watched them yet because I've had to watch Toy Story 1, 2, and 3 like 97 times in the past 3 months. So I've taken the approach that like I hear parents bitch all the time about the new cartoons like Puppy Patrol or Paw Patrol and all this stuff that they get stuck watching. So I've gone on the offensive, and I've actually gotten my daughter hooked on movies that I used to watch. So I got her hooked on Toy Story. I got her hooked on Beethoven, Scooby-Doo, Zombie Island, like stuff that I watched. Goofy movie. And it hasn't backfired on me, but it's making me dislike movies I used to love, where I'm like, I'm fucking sick of watching Lotso.
Yeah.
And it's just, it's funny. So it's the lesser of two evils, I think, but I pick things on Amazon Prime. I'm like, watch this, and I have to force her to watch it 3 times, and then she's addicted to it, and then she'll watch that for a month. So I'm working my way up to the How to Train Your Dragon trilogy,
You know
because I
what?
have all 3 of those.
That's good parenting because I kind of got thrown to the wolves with my mom.
Mhm.
My mom, my mom was young, very young. She had me at 18, so she was a young adult when she was raising a kid. So I was kind of forced. Like she took me to see Pet Cemetery in the movie theater, which is way too early for a kid of my age, and
Mhm.
like I kind of respected it and enjoyed the ability where kids at school were talking about Home Alone, and I was like, yeah, I saw Silence of the Lambs. I don't know what you guys are on about, but it all depends. It depends on. I mean, obviously, I wasn't watching Silence of the Lambs as a Riley's age, but
Mhm.
it all depends on what they can put up with. It's cool. Usually movies end up making the kids' taste turn out interesting.
Oh yeah, for sure. And I've taken. My dad was a single dad too, probably the same situation as your mom, where if he had to go see a movie, either I'm coming or doesn't get to see it. So there was quite a few movies. Like I have told the story a lot with From Dusk Till Dawn in 1996. I'm in the theater as a 6-year-old with pussy, pussy,
Chicken pussy, dog
Yeah,
pussy, hairy
yeah.
pussy, stinky pussy.
So you watch the trailer, and it's just this little, slam bang vampire movie, and my dad's in the theater, and 35 minutes in, he's like, ah, ah! And so I always have memories of a couple of those movies where my dad had an oops. The other one was 8 millimeter. So
Ooh.
yeah, so I got taken to a lot of those movies. Obviously, I've said that I've watched Child's Play and Freddy since I was like 4, so I got raised in that kind of throw them to the fire thing too, and I think it made me more mature for it.
Yeah.
I'm kind of that way with my kids, but
Well, you
a
curse
little,
around them, so I mean that's
yeah, it's a little different because like Shane and Bella, obviously, I wasn't in their lives from the beginning, so I kind of when I entered their lives, I didn't want to just throw them to the fire necessarily. I kind of had to transition a bit. But Bella's a horror fanatic. Like this is a funny story that most people will appreciate. So I watched The Hitcher on YouTube because the copy on Amazon was dog shit because I plan on reviewing it soon. And I went to go take a shower, and I came out, and she was half an hour into John Carpenter's Body Bags, and she sat there and watched the whole film. So like she's like I was when I was a kid, where she just latches onto that. Shane is total comic book. Like, take me to see the Avengers, take me to see How to Train Your Dragon. I don't really have any interest in Hereditary. So that's kind of where he's at. Riley, I feel like, is going to be a mix of the two, where she's just going to want to see anything that I see. So
that's awesome.
It's kind of cool molding them like clay.
Yeah,
Like you will like Freddy. Jason's a pussy. Come on, like so it's fun kind of having them molded.
See that shit backfires sometimes though. Then they like if they're trying to rebel, they're like, I'm gonna watch Twilight because my dad doesn't like it.
Exactly. Canceling the fucking internet. How about that? Nobody watches anything.
We're not bringing that in this house.
Yeah, exactly. Everybody laughed at me for buying physical media. Ha! I'm the only one that can watch anything now. And we're good on time, by the way. The thing that I had to do just got canceled, so we can pretty much chill till whenever. Not if you have somewhere to be, obviously you can let me.
No, Emily's in the middle of an edit, and the house is on shutdown when that goes on. So
so we're good till 6.
we're good till fucking January.
We'll just live stream all the movies that are coming up.
So did you watch Ma? I watched Ma. It was my second half of my doubleheader with Dark Phoenix.
I did. I liked it okay. I thought Octavia Spencer was awesome in it. Everything else I didn't think was all that great.
Dude, watch it after Dark Phoenix. It's way better.
I'd imagine. I watched it after Godzilla.
Oh, okay.
So yeah, that was an interesting little 2-parter thing. I liked her a lot in it. I thought that it started off really interesting, but to me the script was really weak because there was so many times where it's like, okay, I understand teenagers are dumb, but this is like, we need you to do this really stupid thing to make the movie work dumb.
Yeah.
Like the scene where, and it's in the trailer, so this isn't really like a spoiler for Ma, but like the scene where the main girl pretty much knows for a fact at this point that Ma is fucked in the head and possibly murderous, and she sends her that video with all of her friends at her basement, and she's like, come on down, I got your earrings. and she
Yeah.
doesn't tell anybody. She doesn't call the cops, doesn't tell her mom, she just goes. And it's like, you really don't have anything that you would be in trouble for if you called the cops at this point. Like,
Yeah.
you could just call the cops, they would go there, they're going to see all these kids getting alcohol from this woman, they're going to find evidence of murders and all this stuff. You're fine. Why are you doing the Lone Ranger thing? And
well,
and
they do. There is that scene where they're drinking at the quarry or whatever, and the cops show up with the flashlights and kind of intimidate them. So I felt like that was enough of an explanation why they'd be afraid to.
I thought that was just to explore the fact that Luke Evans was a cocksucker. I thought that was the only thing that was, I thought that was the only
Okay.
thing that.
All right, fair enough.
That's what I thought. It's like, hey, I should arrest you, but your dad's a dick, so go ahead and party on.
Yeah.
That was pretty much what I took it as.
Octavia Spencer's character, I thought was extremely fleshed out, and when you
Yeah,
find out stuff, what's going on with that character, you're like, oh wow, this is an interesting take.
Yeah.
But
The trailer also ruined pretty much most of the movie too. I don't know if you saw the trailer, but it showed everything up to the point with what she does with all 4 or 5 of the kids in the last like 10 minutes.
Oh no, I didn't see that.
Yeah, it shows all of that. So that was another thing that kind of blew it a little bit. And I found the movie strangely restrictive in certain aspects. Like, there's literally a scene where it shows her grab a dick. I don't know if it was actually Luke Evans.
Yeah.
I don't know if it was actually a dick or if it was a rubber dick, but she actually grabs a dick and it shows a dick-like object in her hand. But the kill scenes, they don't really show a whole lot. And so I was like, wow, for a movie that kind of was going for it in certain aspects, he kind of, turned it down to 5 or a 6 with the kills. But I said in my review, if you're going to show a dick, show some kills, and it kind of became a trademark. So,
Missy Pyle, what's up?
Yeah. She entered the movie interesting. So it was fine. It's a movie where I was like, look, it's a Blumhouse movie. You know what to expect from these. Octavia Spencer is awesome in it. I don't feel like the movie quite deserves how good she is, but I was fine with it.
Yeah.
It could have been a lot better.
Yeah, I do my half year ranking in a month, and I'm almost certain that I'm going to have a lot more positive and a lot more to remember and to say about it in 3 weeks than I will in 6.5. It's one of those movies where it's like, it'll fade, but so will Dark Phoenix.
Yep. So I had enough of a good time with it. It just didn't quite match my expectations, but it was fine.
Yeah.
It was fine.
Fine.
Let's see here.
At least it's been.
What do you all think of the Joker movie?
I'm intrigued.
Yes. I'm very curious. My wheels are turning a little bit more than they should about this, them really doubling down on the young Batman thing. I don't know if maybe they're positioning themselves where they can utilize Joaquin Phoenix's Joker and have it make sense.
Yeah.
Maybe I'm reading too much into it. It seems a little fishy timing that they're doing an 80s Joker origin and they're going to take Batman back to presumably the 90s. So I don't know if that's me just reading in between the lines that aren't there, but it seems a little interesting.
I can't put my finger on what this movie is going to be. I mean, based on what we've seen, like I could see this being a completely boring movie. I could see it being incredible. Like it just there's nothing about what they're giving us that makes me feel one way or another. So I don't know. Usually that's good for me, but when a trailer does so much, you're like, oh shit, here we go.
Yep.
But there's nothing where I'm like, all right, well, that's big. There's the laughing on the subway car thing is the only thing where it's just like, all right, maybe he's losing his shit and that's the beginning. But if that's the case, we haven't, I'm hoping there's more to that, and that's not like a third act thing that's going on. So.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if they're taking the Killing Joke approach, where it's just like one bad day, really just screws this guy up really bad.
And it's Todd Phillips too, so like Todd Phillips, The Hangover, Due Date.
Yeah, I haven't seen War Dogs. Apparently, War Dogs is really good and different for him, but I haven't seen it yet.
Yeah.
Yeah. Carry on for just a second. I just got a message. Holly, she was trying to call me.
Okay.
But yeah, I totally agree. I'm looking forward to it, but I really don't know what to expect.
Yeah. Guarded, intrigued, but guarded. I thought Godzilla was awesome. Yeah, Craig. If you're a big monster fan, it kind of does exactly what you want it to. Just big things fucking shit up and beating each other up. Plot's a little convoluted, takes some shortcuts and stuff, but it depends on the mood and what you're expecting from that movie. But yeah, Godzilla, it is what you think it is. I thought it was fine, but it gave me a headache. That's funny you say that, because I felt, if anything, the scale was really neat in Godzilla. Like, you actually had these really wide shots, and cities look like, without without hating on the old school Godzilla man in a suit against cardboard cities. That you could tell it was a dude in a cardboard suit. But the scale looks really, really good. It looks like giant things in actual real life cities. So the scale is the best. I'll just keep saying the scale. The scale was really good.
Mm-hmm. Cody, have you reviewed Stephen King's Carrie? I have not. I'm sure I'll get to it eventually. Have you played the Arkham games? That's a question. What is your favorite Arkham game?
One.
Oh, man. Okay. My favorite is actually the third one. Most people would say Arkham City. I actually thought Arkham Knight was the best one, because I really found myself loving like the really dark rated R approach they took to it. It was actually the only one that's rated mature. I really liked the Batmobile stuff. Some people really hated that, but I actually really enjoyed it.
Okay.
And I really got sucked into the story with the Arkham Knight. It's a different play on the game's been out for years, so if it's a spoiler, I'm sorry, but it takes a different play on the Red Hood storyline, and I found the storyline captivating. So it was a lot deeper for me. Arkham City probably has the best gameplay overall, but Arkham Knight just really hit another level for me.
Yeah. Like I said, I haven't played that series that much. So the first one was just in the asylum.
Mm-hmm.
And from what I understand, it's gone way, way better since then.
Yeah, the second one, Hugo Strange basically maps off a certain section of the city and makes a section of the city an entire prison. So it becomes Arkham City, and so you're trying to take down Hugo Strange, who knows the identity of Batman, while at the same time Joker, who is kind of running things from behind the scenes, and you have Two-Face and Catwoman in there. Arkham Knight is Scarecrow basically holding the city hostage with fear toxin. And there's this guy, Arkham Knight, who knows everything about Batman. You have no idea who this character is. He looks kind of like a more lean version of Batman who's murdering people, and like it's really, really cool storyline. It's the darkest of the three for sure. So it's one of those things where it's the third chapter of a trilogy, and it's the darkest. So just everything coming full circle really worked for me.
What are your thoughts? Are you guys excited for the Morbius movie with Jared Leto? I don't have much information on that.
Just off of the information that we're getting, a Morbius movie with Jared Leto, no, because I don't really know anything about Morbius other than he's a vampire. Jared Leto pivoting from Joker to another DC villain seems strange, and I would not be surprised if that movie doesn't even happen. So until I have a trailer, I don't believe anything from the DC universe yet.
Yeah, there's a lot of things in pre-production.
Yeah. Have you ranked the Dark Knight trilogy? What would your ranking be?
2, 1, 3.
Mine would be 1, 2, 3.
Batman Begins over Dark Knight.
Yep. It's kind of an unpopular opinion, but I like the movie more for being a very Batman and Bruce Wayne focused movie, where 2 and 3 are very much the villain's movie. And I'm not disputing the fact that Dark Knight is the shit, but I also have gotten very kind of worn thin on how much people blow that movie since 2008. Like you can't even get the question out, like, what's the greatest comic book? Dark Knight, and it's like, okay, well, whatever. So I tend to think that the Batman Begins is a bit of an underrated chapter.
I'll give you that. It's interesting that they you finally get. Because all of these Batman movies, it's just, he's a fucking badass and he can hide. Here you see how. Like, that was a really cool thing that they showed, like, him training and him doing that shit with Ra's al Ghul to why he's able to hide in shadows and stuff like that. That was really neat. It's number 2, only to Dark Knight. So I agree.
I'm getting corrected in the chat. Morbius is a Spider-Man villain. That makes a little more sense. Okay. Okay. So yeah, my
Oh.
bad. My bad. But
It
yeah.
shows how much information you got on it.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah, Batman Begins, and this is also a superficial thing. I like a bulky, like buff Batman, and he was in great fucking shape in Batman Begins, and he's really like slender in 2 and 3. So it's
Cody likes his men buff. You heard it here.
yes, exactly. I like my muscles glistening. But yeah, he's a little bit more of a badass in the first movie, I think, where the second movie and the third movie are very much Joker and Bane's movie. I still love all 3 of them. I even think that Dark Knight Rises is better than most people give it credit for. So it's splitting hairs trying to rank that trilogy, but I am one that I do prefer the first one a little bit.
Yeah, yeah. Dark Knight Rises. It's like, well, it's a shame the other 2 exist because it's pretty fucking good.
And you know what? I'll say this too, and it's not the movie's fault too. I always have a little bit of heartbreak when I watch The Dark Knight because it felt like they had plans to do so much more with Joker and with that storyline, and then they had to pivot because of yes. So whenever time I get to that scene where he's hanging upside down, and that's the last we ever see of Heath Ledger's Joker, I always leave with a little bit of a sour taste. Yeah. So it's not the movie's fault. That's my own shit. But
and Bane's pretty menacing too. For all that void that's left behind, so it's unfortunate a lot. Yeah. And then that first night it came out, there was that shooting, which kind of affected a lot of people.
I don't know if this was their plan at all, but I always thought in my head it would have been badass. Like pretend we live in a world where Heath Ledger never died, and you take the approach of The Dark Knight Rises, but you split it into 2 movies. So you have The Dark Knight Falls and The Dark Knight Rises. The Dark Knight Falls is all about Bane intimidating him, kind of coming onto the scene, breaking his back, and you end with him breaking Batman's back, winning. Bruce is out for the count in this prison, and they blow open Blackgate Prison, and all the villains are populating Gotham City, and you end the movie with him setting Heath Ledger free. Like Heath Ledger's sitting in the prison cell laughing or something like that, and then The Dark Knight Rises is about him coming back and kind of taking the city back. But unfortunately, they didn't have they weren't able to do that. But in my own little alternate universe, that would have been like a brilliant 4-movie thing.
And this is before like the Carrie Fisher, Grand Moff Tarkin thing where they were CGIing people into movies. Who knows if that trilogy came out around today, they could have finagled some Heath Ledger footage and at least gave him a send off of some sorts in the third one.
Yeah,
it's interesting you bring that up. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. Let's see here. What about Arkham Origins? That one's okay. That one's the weakest of all of them, but it's pretty decent. I love the fight with Deathstroke for sure. Let's see. A lot of people just correcting me on Morbius. Everybody freaked out for a minute. Wait.
Actually,
there's a glitch in the Matrix. Let me see. Any more questions, guys, before we wrap it up? Spit, Cody. It helps with the taste. That's what I hear.
Not those fucking spicy nuts. It doesn't.
Have you seen I think it's College Humor or something where they redo the scene in Batman, The Dark Knight Rises where
Tommy Wiseau.
No.
Oh.
It's the scene where Talia al Ghul reveals herself and she stabs Bruce when all 3 of them, Talia, Bruce, and Bane are sitting there, and it's a different actor, but they play it for laughs. He's like, "What about you stabbed me?" He's like, "But we totally had sex like 8 times." And he's like, "You let me put it in all 3 holes in an order that would shock you." And Bane's like, "All right, shut up. I don't want to hear anymore." He's like, "Ass, mouth, vag." It's so fucking funny. Sergio, do you think the Aunt May movie is going to release? No, never.
What?
Never. There's actually
is that really a thing?
It was. There was an idea before they did the Marvel deal. After Amazing Spider-Man 2, they had a Aunt May like spy film that they were talking about. It's kind of a running joke. I think Sean even has a shirt that he wears sometimes that says Aunt May the movie coming soon or something. But no, not with the MCU involved, and especially after they've started to hit a little bit with Venom. I don't think they would ever be that desperate. If you don't spit, you confuse regular Coke with vanilla Coke.
Yeah.
I got one problem with Batman Returns. Scarecrow is not the main villain. You mean Dark Knight Rises?
Batman Returns. Wait, what?
Yeah, I'm confused about what movie you're talking about there.
Is that a game? Maybe I don't.
I don't know.
Batman Returns.
Have you played any Justice League games? Is there any Justice League games?
Dude, what's going on? Getting trolled.
Yeah, I don't know about that. When's
When's
the
the
next Scream stream? That's a
great
great
question?
question that we don't have an answer to.
This is Scream Light. Be happy with this.
Yes, exactly. Without giving too many details, Lee has had technical difficulties with his computer and some things going on behind the scenes that has taken precedence. So,
And Brian's had some.
Brian's had a child
Yeah.
very recently, so we're two of us are having a very difficult time finding the time to do any streaming. So I really hope we'll get to do one after Child's Play, if nothing else. So
Oh yeah.
we're not going to press either of them because I've been in both of their shoes before, and it's not anything that you want people tapping on your shoulder saying, "Hey, you want to talk about movies?" So it's just one of those things. You'll probably see a lot of streams with me and CP in between then. But hopefully, if nothing else, at the very latest, we can get one by the end of the month. Talk about Child's Play, but nothing written in blood. Let's see.
We're trying. It's not for a lack of effort.
Yeah, exactly. No, Cillian Murphy. We don't know the movie you're talking about, Alex. Not the villain. We know who Scarecrow is, but
Do you mean yeah? Which Batman movie do you not like the fact that Cillian Murphy is the villain? Is it Dark Knight or Dark Knight Rises?
yeah. Have you watched the Sherlock show? I watched
Oh,
one episode.
not a fan.
Well, no, it's just one of those movies, or it's one of those shows where I watched the first episode and I went, okay, and then I just kind of forgot about it. I did the same thing with Breaking Bad when I first watched Breaking Bad. I watched the first two episodes. I saw the dude's guts fall through the ceiling, and I went, "Holy shit!" And then I forgot about the show for like a year. And then when I went to go revisit it, they were finishing up season 3. Batman Begins, guys. Sorry.
He is the bad guy, isn't he?
I think
Liam
Ra's al
Neeson.
Ghul is probably the main villain, but I actually like how that plays out.
Yeah.
So I'm fine with that. He's the main villain for the middle of the movie, and he's got the main thing that's setting the city apart. So they're kind of working together. But yeah, I like how Batman Begins turns out with Ra's al Ghul. Thank you, 20 Thomas, and Gary Boyce says, "CP, give me a shout out."
No.
Sergio, what character do you like more, Predator or Alien? I like Predator more as a character. I like the Alien movies more.
The first Predator movie is really fun and really good. It's a completely different universe as far as type of movie. Like Predator, the first one, is just so testosterone and it's
Dude,
just,
I've said it before. It's the manliest movie ever made.
yeah. And Alien is it's way different. It's great for so many different reasons.
Yes, that's a thinking man's franchise.
Yeah, Brian. Well,
Yeah. Will they reboot X-Men for MCU or carry the cast over to it? They're going to reboot it. They're not going to carry over a damn thing. They're not going to carry over anything. Even if Hugh Jackman was still playing Wolverine, they would tell Hugh Jackman to retire. Like the MCU is not in the we're going to start where you left off business. They're in the this is our shit business. So when they have X-Men, they're going to reboot it 100% from the ground up.
I'm more intrigued as to
Deadpool is the only one I think that they'll carry over, but that's the rumor is they're going to have Deadpool stay separate from the MCU, so that's how they're going to get away with it.
you and Dennis watch John Campea a little too much. That's what I'll say.
What happened?
You said it just as Dennis said the same thing about Deadpool.
Oh, wow.
Same info, huh, guys? Okay. Interesting.
We got the same source.
Same source.
But no, that's what I've heard. There was rumors months ago that they were going to that Deadpool was going to be gone, and then there was right after that the guy that owns Disney, like Bob Iger or somebody, was saying something along the lines of we're going to keep the rated R movies and see what we can do with it. And then pretty recently, I read something that said that they're going to keep Deadpool, but they're just going to keep him separate. So he's going to continue that as a part of like the 20th Century Fox division of Disney, while all the other characters they got are going to go straight to the MCU. So we'll see, but that's what.
Oh boy. I don't know if it's me or Cody that froze. Oh boy. You're gonna have to let me know in the chat if it's me on my own here, because I'm at the wheel. If not, then great. Cody's probably talking to you, or maybe not. I think I might have shit the bed. There's no reaction. Ooh, I don't know what to do. I don't know what to do. All right, so they're still talking. So it's fuck. What do I do? I'm stuck. All right, so Cody says his internet just shit the bed.
You there?
Yeah. So that it was me. You dropped off?
Yes, I dropped off.
Okay, because the chat was carrying like nothing was wrong. So I was like, oh, okay, I'm the one who's fucked, or maybe there's a delay or something. So
no, my internet.
You're bricking right now.
I was like, fuck. Oh, am I okay?
Yeah.
Okay.
You want to shut her down, and
Yeah, go ahead and close it out.
all right, we'll say goodbye. I'll
Bye, everybody. I think I'm froze, but if you could see this,
No, yeah, you're good now.
Cool.